Hello and welcome to Blended Learning by Triaribo. And today we will study Introduction to Literature and we will study Introduction to Science for today. Okay, first of all, we will study what is the definition of science. So, science comes from the Latin word scientia, which means knowledge or knowing. So, any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena and that entails unbiased observation and systemic experimentation is called science. So, to make it easy, science is the knowledge which gained from using observations and experiments to describe and explain the world around us. In order to gain knowledge, science have what we call scientific investigation. There are several steps to do the scientific investigation. First of all, a scientist must identify problems, and then scientists must form a hypothesis. This is what we call forming a hypothesis. Next, we have planning the experiments, or scientists must plan the experiments and also mind the controlling variables. And after that, we as a scientist must carry out investigation. In the last part, we must do the reporting. Okay, let's study it closely and slowly. First of all, we have identifying problem. What is that? So identifying problems in general arise from a desire to know what happens in our surrounding. Bear in mind is the desire to know what happens in our surroundings. For example, there's a question, why do birds fly? Another example would be why fish flies. Another example, why human cannot fly, or why some men able to swim and others are unable to swim. Those problems must be identified by scientists, and after that, a scientist must form a hypothesis. So what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is an early idea or explanation for the phenomena that we observe. Early idea, the first step idea, or early explanation. A hypothesis can only be accepted or proven true after going through experiments. If the hypothesis is not true, a new hypothesis must be formed. Bear in mind that hypothesis is an early idea to explain the problem. Next, after we have a hypothesis, we must plan the experiments. A list of apparatus required and the way they should be carried out are made before an experiment can begin. Apparatus is a tool. The way they should be carried out, the system should be made before an experiment can begin. So, we as a future scientist need to determine the way to collect, analyze and interpret the data obtained from the experiments. When we have our experiments, of course, we must collect the data. After that, we must analyze the data and we must interpret the data. Now, next step is the controlling variables. Variables are situations and factors that are controlled and changed in an investigation. Variables, situation and factors. Bear in mind that variables are situation and factors that are controlled and changed in an investigation. There are several types of variables. First, a variable that is being kept constant. Variables that are kept constant are fixed. Second one is variables that is manipulated or changed, which means that variables that are used to test the hypothesis means it can be changed. And then the last but not least is variables that respond. The results are collected from the variables that are changed when testing a hypothesis. Students, bear in mind that variables are situations and factors that are controlled and changed in an investigation. Next step will be carrying out investigation. First of all, we must collect the data. That is why we name it collecting the data. All data are observed and measured accurately. So we as a future scientist must collect the data. We must observe and measure the data accurately. And then after that, we must analyze and interpret the data. Analyzing and interpreting the data. After we collect the data, we must present the data in a table or chart. The data is then presented in a table or chart. After we collect the data, we present the data. And then after that, the interpretation is made from the table or chart. Collect the data, present the data, interpret the data. After that, we must make a conclusion. Collect the data, analyze the data, interpret the data, and then after that we make conclusions. So what is conclusions? A conclusion is an accurate statement to describe the problems identified throughout experiments to determine whether to accept or reject the hypothesis. Conclusion is a statement to accept or reject the hypothesis. For example, if you have a hypothesis regarding the bird, you say, or you have a hypothesis that birds fly because birds have wings and the wings moved the air below the birds. And then after that you make investigation, you collect the data regarding the bird, you analyze the data, you interpret the data, and if your investigation support your previous hypothesis, then you make a statement or you make conclusion based on your experiments. That is called conclusions. And then after that you do the reporting. A report is made after conducting a scientific experiment based on the admitted format. After you make the conclusion, based on investigation, you must make the report. The report can be in numerous formats, but it should be unadmitted formats. A different knowledge or different major usually have different kind of format. For example, the humanities, science, or the social science Usually they have different kind of format, but you must make your report, or you must write your report based on your own format, on your own subject format, on your own basic knowledge format. For example, if you are reporting for English literature, you must make your report regarding the format for English literature major. So, once again, keep in mind, remember, bear in mind that science is the knowledge gained from using observations and experiments to describe and explain the world around us. Science is the knowledge gained or obtained from using observation and experiments to describe and explain the world around us. There are several steps to gain the knowledge from science, of course, right? First, you do identifying problems. After that, you will forming a hypothesis, and then you planning the experiments, and then you determine the controlling variables, and then after that you carrying out investigation. Last but not least, you do the reporting. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you for your attention. See you again next time.